Cuban authorities announced that the fire at the Matanzas base is under control. Officials continue to extinguish isolated outbreaks. Brazil's health ministry declares highest level of emergency in response to the increase in monkeypox cases. And in Greece, authorities search for dozens of migrants shipwrecked near the island of Carpathos while trying to reach Europe. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios. Cuban authorities declared the fire at the Matanzas supertanker base under control despite the fact that there are still isolated outbreaks on the ground. During a press conference, the second chief of the National Fire Department of Cuba, Alexander Jorge, assured that although the fire has been brought under control, the work group is still carrying out firefighting tasks, mainly at the supertanker base, where small isolated outbreaks persist. The official pointed out that among the tasks being carried out is the cooling in the area to extinguish these still active outbreaks, which he said do not represent a risk of spreading.
We can say that Tuesday night was a much calmer night. We no longer had the situation that we had from Friday last week to this past Monday. There was an explosion in the early morning, and we continued working non-stop to put out the fire. Now, finally, we can safely say that the fire is under control.
Alexa thanked the Venezuelan and Mexican delegations for their help in the work to control the blaze.
At this moment, we are working together, Cuba, Venezuela, and Mexico. And I would like, well, because many colleagues ask me, well, this is an experience we have had and that we have never had. We had always worked on putting out fires alone. We had never had the possibility of sharing this beautiful work with our Mexican and Venezuelan brothers. And I want to tell them that it has been a very unique experience for both sides. We have shared many approaches, we have agreed on many points of view, and I would say that this looks like a team that has been working for many years. We would have to listen to each other on the radio, how we communicate. It doesn't seem that there are Cubans, Mexicans, and Venezuelans. That is to say, that seems to be one working team.
This Wednesday at a press conference, the provincial health director of Matanzas, Luis Armando Wong, gave an assessment of the number of people affected by the fire at the supertanker base in Matanzas.
Up to this moment, we have attended 128 patients, 121 male and 7 female. We have given 108 medical discharges, 102 of them are male and 6 female. We still have, up to this moment, 1 deceased, the 60-year-old firefighter of the province of Cienfuegos. There are still 20 hospitalized patients, 19 of which are male, 1 female, and we have 5 patients in critical condition, the same number that we have reported during the last days. 1 of them unstable, 2 patients in serious condition, and 13 care patients.
The government of Barbados announced on national television the implementation of the reform of the National Insurance Fund. The briefing was presided over by Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley and counted with the participation of the actuary of the National Insurance Fund, Derek Osborne, the head of the private sector agency, Tricia Tennis, and a representative from a national movement of social workers, Richard Green, among others. Actuary of the National Insurance Fund, Derek Osborne, said the reform represents a comprehensive system of social aimed at reflecting Barbados' value systems that responds to changing socio-economic conditions and that satisfies customers' needs. On the other hand, Deputy Chairman of the National Insurance Board, Roland Adams, praised the bipartisan character of the scheme and said the program is to be implemented as a challenge of an aging population and a shrinking working sector, which contributes to the fund. Brazil's Ministry of Health declared the highest level of emergency due to the increase of monkeypox cases in the country. Health authorities said that 2,293 cases reported in the nation, while other 2,363 people are suspected of having the disease. According to local media, health officials decided to act under the standards of the National Contingency Plan for monkeypox, which indicates that the disease should be placed at the highest emergency level when cases diagnosed in Brazil represent a risk of transmissibility for the population. Authorities warn that the country's health system does not yet have sufficient resources to immunize high-risk populations and provide treatment to a growing number of infected people. Venezuelan authorities remain on alert due to the recent rains that have caused flooding in several regions of the country. After the forecast issued by the National Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology in NAMEM, with the passing of tropical wave number 28, heavy rains have affected some states in the western part of the country as well as part of the capital region. Heavy rains have caused rivers to overflow, generating several floods, blockage of roads and crop areas. After the situation occurred in the last 24 hours, authorities of the Civil Protection and Risk Management will offer the balance on the extent of the possible damages. A wildfire burning through the forest of a national park in central Portugal raged for the fifth continuous day on Wednesday. Over 1,000 firefighters are on the ground to deal with the blaze, which started on Saturday in the council of Covilhã and has spread to some neighboring areas. A few dozen people were protectively evacuated on Tuesday afternoon after the fire crept closer to their homes. Around 350 vehicles and 10 aerial units are supporting the operation to contain the blaze. Portugal is facing a difficult summer with several heat waves and wildfires. The heat worsened Portugal's drought, with 45% of the mainland in extreme drought, the highest classification on the rest in severe drought. The Portuguese Weather Service said July was the hottest since national records began in 1931.
I have never ever seen anything like it. It's disaster. It breaks my heart. And all the animals. They found a lot of wild boar in the fire. It really breaks my heart. Everything is burned. Everything is ruined. There is nothing green left. It will take many years to regenerate. I won't be around to see it.
Let us take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In Mexico, hundreds of people held a festive march in the country's capital to celebrate the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. For the 13th consecutive year, members of native peoples, neighborhoods, and indigenous communities residing in Mexico City marched from the Glorieta de la Independencia to the capital's Zócalo, dressed in colorful costumes from different regions of Mexico. The march was led by a banner with the slogan, "Never Again a Mexico City Without Indigenous Peoples." For the first time, the march was accompanied by a group from the Afro-Mexican community.
Mainly, we are here to make the indigenous presence in Mexico City visible, and that it is also understood that the indigenous cultures are part of a national culture, and that we are proud to show in these days the different artistic and musical expressions.
In Panama, the People United for Life Alliance reiterated the call for nationwide demonstrations and street closures to demand the government comply with the agreements reached at the single dialogue table. In response to the call, members of Panamanian social and union organizations will mobilize this Wednesday in several regions of the country. The Teachers Association of Panama announced that they will hold protests in each educational center, and in the afternoon they will concentrate at the National Assembly. It is expected that the single dialogue table will be resumed this Thursday, August 11th, in Penoneme, with the subject of the Social Security Fund and corruption.
Today, we, the honest, humble, and hardworking people, are once again in the streets. We are in disagreement with the actions of the government. We're tired of being delayed at the dialogue table and bringing people who are not adequately trained to respond. We demand the presence of Nico Cortizo, He's the one who is there to ensure that the requests of the people who are in the streets today be met.
The Russian government requested a meeting of the United Nations Security Council to address the attacks on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The meeting was called for this Thursday, August 11th. Russia requested also the presence of the International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi. In this context, Grossi called on both parties to the conflict to exercise the utmost restraint in the vicinity of this important nuclear facility and condemned any act of violence at nuclear facilities in their surroundings or against their personnel. The Ukrainian government attacked the Yelenovka prison in Donetsk at the end of July. Denis Pushilin, head of the government of the Donetsk People's Republic, said on Wednesday the objective was to stop the confessions of ultranationalist militants of the Azov Battalion and also to warn the survivors. Our special envoy, Alejandro Kirk, sent the following report from the prison.
The Russian and DPR authorities brought a large number of foreign and local journalists to make their point about what happened here on the 28th of July when a Ukrainian missile hit this penal colony where over 400 war prisoners are being held. 50 of them, over 50 of them were killed and a number were injured.
Today we are in a place where another crime, a war crime, has been committed, and here quite barbaric methods were used and used. There were Ukrainian armed formations, and it was after prisoners from amongst Azov fighters began to testify. It was on the 20th that a video came out with names. That is, the orders of nature, the orders that were given directly to this criminal unit. Out came an interview from a video confirmation, a video confession from Dmitry Kasatsky. Literally on the following night, on the 29th, there was a strike exactly on the territory of this prison, which killed 49 people from these members of this Azov battalion. Another 72 people were wounded. Because Azov fighters, realizing the futility of their situation, they began to tell the truth, began to testify. That is true. Inconvenient for Kiev. Because too many criminal orders were given absolutely openly during this period of conflict, and they found nothing better than to simply destroy some part of the fighters. And the rest of the remaining ones, just to intimidate, not allow them to speak and tell about the crimes they committed by the orders of the higher leadership.
That's it from Yelenovka, People's Republic of Donetsk.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Greece, authorities are searching for dozens of migrants who were shipwrecked near the island of Carpathos in the southeastern Aegean Sea while trying to reach Europe. According to a statement issued by the Coast Guard, the rescue operation was ordered on Wednesday at dawn after being informed of the shipwreck. The team said that search and rescue efforts are continuing, involving 4 boats, 2 Coast Guard patrol boats, and a helicopter of the Greek Air Force. The team reported that these efforts have been difficult due to strong winds of 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. It was also detailed that so far 29 people, Afghans, Iraqis, and Iranians, have already been rescued. According to local media, between 20 and 50 more people were on the ship that sank. The ship had sailed from the Turkish city of Antalya in the south of that country and was bound for Italy. In Kenya, preliminary results of the general election show a narrow victory for presidential candidate William Ruto. According to data by electoral authorities, the current Vice President William Ruto had reached 51.5% of the popular support, while his main opponent, the former Prime Minister and leader of the coalition Hope for Unity, Raila Odinga, had obtained 47.85%. Of the more than 22 million citizens eligible to vote, close to 12 million exercised their right Tuesday, a figure that represents more than 56% of the electoral roll. During the day, the citizens also elected senators, legislators, as well as women representatives, regional and local authorities. And Nigeria's government officials reported Wednesday that the nation has brought home around 12,000 people despite instability. The officials said improved security had prompted their return to Chimfida village in Katsina state near the Nigerian border. But criminal gangs known locally as bandits continue to terrorize communities in the wider region despite military operations against them. GBS political administrator Bashir Sabiu said that more than 88,000 people boarded buses outside a makeshift camp at a public school in Jibia to go home to Chimfida after fleeing months earlier following raids by bandits. More than 4,000 were being brought home to the same village from Maradi in Nigeria. Over the past 2 years, violence has displaced almost 1 million people in northwest and central Nigeria, while an additional 80,000 have fled across the border to Niger. A catastrophic humanitarian crisis has gripped Afghanistan since the Taliban returned to power a year ago. The healthcare system is one of the most affected by the policies of the new government. Last month, the Musa Kala district hospital in Helmand province was forced to shut its doors to all except those suffering from suspected cholera. The population also lacks of basic sanitation needs like clean drinking water and adequate sewerage system. According to the United Nations, the current humanitarian crisis in the South Asian country is the world's worst.
I hope the previous government returns so that we can have a good life and find food. We are exhausted. We are weak and facing a lot of problems. This sickness is here. There is no bliss in anything. Before it was better, since the Islamic Emirate is ruling, we can't find bread. I can't give milk to my children. We do not have anything. For the last 3 or 4 nights, we haven't had a proper warm meal. Before it was better. We could find things to eat. Now there is nothing.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in the Democratic Republic of the Congo's capital Kinshasa, continuing his three-nation tour of Africa. After his arrival at Njili International Airport, Blinken met with President Felix Tshisekedi and members of the delegations of both countries. Over his 2-day visit, the U.S. Secretary of State will meet with government leaders and civil society groups to discuss partnerships for regional security, human rights issues, environmental conservation, climate change, and bilateral trade and investment. Blinken is expected to encourage solutions to the violence in eastern Congo, where attacks have increased dramatically in the past month, with the resurgence of the M23 rebel group and others fighting for control of the mineral-rich region. teleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order from your cable leader or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.